I remember something that happened to me like right before I decided to quit the first time, like when I left the lady. Well, me, like I said, always being, a dreamer of, the things that I wanted to do in life. I remember I told her in a conversation we had, like, you know what, I would like to have my salon just like you one day. She said, Ana Sol, if you want to open a business, you need money. You need a lot of money. And I was just like, oh, yes. If not, how are you going to open your business? I mean, it's not going to succeed if you don't have money. And I didn't say it to her, because I didn't have that trust with her. But I was like, oh my God, I don't have any money. How do I open my business? But you know what? I said, you know what? I'm going to buy a chair. And little by little, I know one day the opportunity will come. Like, that's the way I did it. I will have some extra money, buy a chair. Another thing, another chair, and things like that. So when the opportunity came along and I said, well, I didn't have the money for the deposit, because we were struggling. And I still did it. And I think that it's you, the one that makes it happen. Nobody else makes it happen. It's you. So I learned and I said, you know what? All this effort and all this sacrifice, because my kids, especially, my older ones, they did, I sacrificed a lot of their time.
What's up, Savage Boss Babes and Dudes? It's Diana inside the Savage Studio once again with another great episode. Please, please, please remember to subscribe to the channel. Share this episode. Share it. Tag it. Make sure that your friends know about it. We want to spread the word about the Savage podcast. And with that, I would like to say welcome and thank you to our next guest. Her name is Ana Sol Villarreal, and she is the owner of Ana Sol's Hair Salon. I'm really glad that you accepted the invitation to be with us here, Ana. I'm really excited to be able to dig in and talk about your story and your experience with entrepreneurship and being an owner here in the city of San Antonio. So welcome. Thank you for accepting the invitation.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
And let's take it back to the beginning. Where are you from?
I'm originally from Monterrey, Mexico. And I've been in San Antonio since 1999, so for a long while now.
So now you're pretty much San Antonian.
Yes, very much. Yeah. Yes, very much. Yes.
So what brought you to San Antonio?
Well, like everybody, a better opportunity, a better future. I would consider myself lucky enough that when we came to the United States, we already had like a legal status, so that was pretty much the reason why. My mom told me, oh, we're just going to go for a few months. And look at me. So many years later, now still here.
And you're still here.
Yes, and I'm still here. Yes.
So this move to San Antonio included yourself and who else? Who came along?
It was my mom, my dad, and my siblings. Yes, okay. My sister, my brother.
Tell me about growing up in Monterrey.
It was, fun, a lot of fun. I was raised, by my grandparents, and I was 5. And then my mom, because my mom and my dad were over here in the United States.
Oh, okay. So yes. you were over there with your grandparents?
Yes. While they were over here, and then they went back. We stayed there, till I was like pretty much 12, 13. And then that's when we moved over here. Yes. But it was a lot of fun. My family's still all over there. I don't have any family here. I only have my mom here. And my sister lives in Beaumont, Texas.
So being a child living over there with your grandparents and having your parents over here in the United States, did you understand the reason or how did they explain to you like, hey, you're over here and your parents are over there, you guys can't be together right now? And how did you accept that, or was that something that you didn't understand?
I guess I was so little and I was so loved by my grandparents that I didn't have that necessity of, my mom, my dad, because they played that role. They were there for us 100%. So pretty much my grandma and my grandpa were my parents, because I was a baby when my mom left. And then when my mom went back, that was, the change. That was the challenge, adapting to my biological parents. That was the challenge. But you know what? I'm still very grateful because everything that they did it for our future, for for us having a better house, a better living and everything. So it was kind of, when you grow up, you're kind of like, oh my God, well, why you left me, Mm-hmm. But then, you become an adult and you understand what the reasons behind it, So it was a challenge, but, now I'm where I'm at because of all the sacrifices.
How old were you when they went back?
I was 5.
Oh, okay. So you were
Yes.
still very young. Very,
Yes,
very young.
yes. But all those little like milestones, when the learning how to walk and even the potty training when you're
Yeah.
little, it was my grandma, my grandpa, and one of my aunts, the ones that were there for us, for me and my sister.
So they go back when you're 5 years old. And how old is your sister at this
My
point?
sister, she is 3 years older than me, so she was about 8.
Okay. And at this time, that's when the decision is made to bring you guys over here also?
Actually, no, they went back because they had built their house. They built a house for us, and they started working over there. So that's what they did over there. Simple living, working. But then it happened to be that we had the opportunity to get our residence, our papers. So that's when they said, or I think immigration was requesting at the time that we had to move to the United States in order for us to get our papers fixed, and that's what we did. That's what we did. And it took a while. I think it took about 10 years, and I guess, back then, whenever immigration did like the paperwork, it took like 10 years for them to accept your papers.
So you still had to be in Mexico
Yes.
while they're doing all this,
What all the
this
process.
paperwork and the whole process.
Yes. As far as I know and I understood, is that we had to wait 10 years for that opportunity to come.
So in the meantime, what was your life like back
You
back
know
in
what?
Monterrey?
It was just, going to school. I was a good student. I always liked school. So, and it was just a plain, like a normal child. Normal child. I never, like I said, I was very blessed. I never knew like what it was to be, compared to other kids that, that were really in, like really bad situation or worse situations. But, always coming to the United States is always something better for everybody.
Yeah.
So we did have that opportunity, and you know what? When we moved over here, well, first we would come just for shopping. Like every now and then.
This is while the process is going on.
Yes. Uh-huh.
So you were getting an idea of what it was going to be like to
Yes.
come over here,
Yes.
right?
Uh-huh.
What was your first impression like?
The first time it was like, well, it was always fun because, like coming to the United States, and not everybody has that opportunity of coming, back and forth. So it was just, let's go shopping kind of thing, you know? And it got real when we actually moved. That's when it got real.
So take me to that moment when you guys finally received the notice and the notification.
Yes,
that
I remember.
Everything's good to go.
I remember they got the letter. I remember conversations from my parents. Okay, we got the letter. We have to move over there. And I remember
At
my
this
mom
time, how old are you?
I'm already 13.
Okay, so
Yes.
you've already been in school. You already have your friends. Like you kind of have your life there.
A teenage.
Yes,
starting
yes.
my teenage fun. And my mom said, you know what, we're going to move over there for a few months while we get our things ready. I'm like, oh, okay. And then we're coming back.
Okay.
So I remember we packed only a bag, a little backpack. That's all I had. Clothes for a weekend. And at the time we came in the bus. And I remember I was so sad because it wasn't going to be a weekend or 2 weeks or 2 months. They told me it was going to be several months, but we were going to go back. Well, we get here and, oh my God, that's when I realized,
You'd been tricked.
Yes. I'm like, oh my God. Yes. I remember, over there with my mom, she had her own house, I had my own bedroom. Everything was fine. And then leaving everything behind. And then I remember at that time we moved to my mom's friend's house. And it was like, oh my God.
Here in San Antonio?
Here in San Antonio, yes. We moved here to San Antonio, and they opened the doors for us. Like you can stay here, all this process. And okay, from having my own bed to sleeping on the floor, it was just like, I want to go back.
Big transition.
Yes,
yeah.
Definitely. It was a big transition. And then tell me that we moved, I think it was like at the end of July. That's when we got to the United States. And then a couple of weeks later, school starts. And I hear my mom telling her friend that I'm getting enrolled in school without me knowing and not speaking a word of English. That's when everything got real, and I say, you know what? It's going to be fine. How bad can it be? Oh,
Is this something that you're saying to yourself?
Yes.
Oh,
I kept
okay.
I kept telling myself, I'm like, how bad can it be?
And your sister's going through the same
Actually,
experience or no?
No, she's not. Because she was older. She was already out of school. She was already.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so she didn't want to.
So you were
school
taking
was
this
not for her.
Yeah, you were taking this on on your own,
Yes,
pretty much.
pretty much. Yes, pretty much. And so I heard that my mom saying that she's going to enroll me in school. And then I'm like, okay, and now it's getting more real than I thought. I was still already having a hard time dealing with sleeping on the floor and the sofa,
Yeah.
As a teenage girl, what can you expect, We know it all when we're a teen. So that happens, and then school starts. I get enrolled in school. So I'm like, okay, it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. First day of school comes, and my mom tells me, Mija, you're going to go through that street, and then you take a left, and it's all straight. That's what she told me. You have to be there by 8:30.
Y apúrale.
Yes. And I was just like, okay, because my mom, she always teaches to be very independent. So when I was in Mexico,
Yeah.
I would ride the bus to the school by myself. And, I was always very, very independent since I was little. And then I'm like, okay, but you're in a country that I didn't speak any English. I didn't even know the streets. She only told me 2 streets down and then take a left.
Yeah.
That's all I remember.
That's like the typical Mexican way of giving directions.
Yes.
Para allá a la esquina, le das a la vuelta y a la derecha. No nombres, ni números, ni nada. Nomás y apuntando, ¿verdad? Con el dedo.
Con el dedo, yes. Ajá. ¿Y dónde está el perro? Ahí
¿Dónde está el perro?
Sí, and then so I was leaving my mom's house. My mom had already she took off because she had to drop off my brother for his first day of school. He was younger. He was in middle school. I think he started 6th grade at that time. So my mom's friend goes, where are you going? And I go, to school. He said, you're going by yourself? And I'm like, yeah, my mom told me to go here and there and to get to school, to go to the front of the school. And she's like, no, I take you. She was all freaking out because I guess over here, and now that I'm a mom, I understand, like you don't tell your kid, just go straight. It's different. So she's like, no, I take you. She was freaking out because I was walking by myself to school. And it was a safe neighborhood, but still.
Yeah.
She could not believe it. It was first day of school and I was walking by myself. And I was like, okay, so she took me all the way in, to the attendance office and all this. And I just kept saying, okay, that's all I knew.
Okay.
Yes. People were talking and I can just hear them noise, that's all I heard, noise, but I didn't know what they were saying. And that's what I remember, that I should have went to the Saturday classes my mom was taking us to for English. We're in Mexico. Mm-hmm. She put us in, and she enrolled us in some English course, so we can practice our English.
But really, that was not your thing.
No, it was only like ABC, pollito chicken, and a can, So, that's all I learned. And, I never put attention because I didn't care. I never thought it was going to be something essential in my life. Mm-hmm. So, first day of school. Oh my God, I thought it was the worst day of my life.
Take me through that day.
Oh, yeah.
So you get to school, you walk in through the doors?
Yes, I go through the doors, and how they print out your schedule? I don't know if they still do that. So they gave me my schedule, and I just keep going, through the numbers. And I kind of would just show a paper to an adult, whatever teacher was there. Yeah. And they would just point. They were giving me directions, but I couldn't understand anything they were saying. But I made it through the day. So I remember from geography, math, science, biology, all that. And then at the end of the school day, I had ESL, which is the English is a second language, right? And we get there, and I was like, oh my God, it's almost over. My day, I think people thought that I was crazy or something, or maybe that I was deaf, because they would talk to me and I would not respond. I would just look at them. That's all I did all day to everybody. So I get there, and I look at the teacher. Her name was Miss Ochoa. I remember her so good. And she was a blonde lady. And I'm like, oh my gosh, she's not going to speak Spanish. That's all I thought. Well, her name is Miss Ochoa, maybe. Maybe, yeah. Maybe. So we get there, and she's like, well, hello. And I'm like, oh, all sad. So when I get there, everybody was quiet, Everyone
and just
was
looking
quiet.
at you,
just
staring at the new girl.
We were just staring at each other because it was first day of school. So we were just staring. Nobody was saying nothing. And then only one guy I remember. Only that guy. He's like, "Hey, what's up, miss?" And whatever. I was like, "Okay, so maybe he knows who she is, or I don't know." But he was still using, he was still speaking English, but I could hear his accent, So I was like, okay. And then suddenly she says, "Buenas tardes." Oh my God. Thank God. But tell me at that moment I started crying. I just
Oh.
started crying and crying and crying.
Dijiste de aquí soy.
Yes. But you know what? I guess me, because I was the one that started crying, everybody else started crying.
Really?
Yes. So it was like 8 of us in that class. It was a very small class. Everybody started crying. Even the boys, even the guys were crying. And it happened to be that those 8 kids that were there went through the same thing I did. It was their first day in school. Like me, I had only been in the United States for 3 weeks. Some of them only a week. Some of them about 3 months. But it was still their first day of school. So I guess we identified each other.
Haz de cuenta que sin querer formaron un club ahí.
Yes, and it's because it was the ESL. So we were crying. I don't know for like how long, but the teacher's like, "It's okay. Now you're gonna be friends, whatever." But till this day, believe me, those 8 people we're still in contact from freshman year of high school.
That's awesome.
Yes, so it was kind of, it was very touching. Like right now we see each other and we're all like, with different careers. Now everybody speaks English.
I was just going to say, do they speak English now too?
Yes, they do. They do. And it was a challenge. Believe me, it was a challenge. So that was first day of school. I survived. I went home with my eyes are swollen, but I survived. Days go by. I keep, getting the hang of it, But I was this is what I still don't know how I did it. All my classes were in English. That was the only class that was in Spanish. It was bilingual. But I still passed all my classes and I was still an AB student. How did I do it at the time? I cannot tell you. But I know that I was doing my homework. I know that I was doing everything,
And you were doing this all on your own? I mean,
yes,
your parents, were they helping you or who's helping you?
Pretty much, I don't know. I don't even know. Like, I think I was just figuring out, before they used to have, I remember had like a little translator where I would type stuff in and then translate and sometimes wrong and sometimes because back then there was no iPad and there was no Google it real fast. I mean, there was none of that. So dictionary, and I'm not gonna lie, I did had a few friends and I'm still friends with them till this day that they were always there and they speak they're bilingual, so they were kind of help me out. I think they were my backup through school, like no, do it like this, don't do it like that. And I remember one of my friends, Jasmine, I love her to death, she's still my friend. She would say, do you understand what she's saying? ¿Le entendiste? And I was like, sometimes I would say yes, sometimes it's like, okay, well, let's do it again because you have to understand. And that's how I did it. So that was freshman year. So, there's always kids that, with the bullying, Before it was like, ay, me está molestando. There was not, bullying. There was not that word. We didn't use that word before. And I think that's one of the reasons too why I gave my best in school too, because you always bump into those kids that, I mean, they think they're better than everybody else, and they make fun of you and they bully you because you don't speak English, and I mean they will call you like ugly stuff, and I mean I don't understand what they were saying. I couldn't understand what they were saying, so I was like what are they saying? And that friend that I'm telling you that I'm still friends with, I remember I asked her, what did she say? Tell me what she said. She's like, don't worry. No te preocupes.
She was kind of protecting you.
Yes.
Yeah.
No te preocupes. But I can tell by her body gesture that she was being mean to me. I just didn't know what she was saying. And that was the first time. And oh my God, I remember it was months after school started. And she would always call that name. And she would say, oh, you're a wetback. And you're a wetback. And I was like, what is that? What is that wetback, And
nobody told you what it meant.
No, I didn't know what it was. I didn't know. Like, even my other friends, the other ones, some of my friends, the ones from Mexico, the ones that were, immigrants just like me. I know they would get mad, but I couldn't understand what it was, and I would look in the dictionary, and I'm like,
you couldn't find it in there.
No, I mean I would translate the 2 words, but it was just like, what does she mean?
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Still, one friend told me she's calling you mojada, and I was like, oh my God, yeah, but I'm not. I'm like, but I'm not. And she would say, it means stuff, like you cross the river and you Mexicans and all this and ugly things.
Yeah.
And I was like, I would see my other friends and I would hear their conversations that how they got to the United States, how they, they crossed the river and they walked so many miles and all this, stories. And I mean, I was always blessed that we had a visa.
Yeah, your story was different.
My story was different. Yeah, I was, the one coming in the car. I was a teenage girl that sometimes didn't want to come because my mom takes forever shopping. It was a whole different scenario from other, compared to other students. But it's still like, why would she call me that? And I'm like, why would she call me that? Like, you're Mexican too. That I would, think that. And I was like, no. Till one day I told her in Spanish, voy a aprender inglés y vas a ver. And she continued, insulting me, calling me all these names. And I could not defend myself, and sometimes in front of the teachers, because she would say I would do stuff to her, like lies, but of course I will believe her. It happens to be that I have to move for family reasons to Houston. So I think it was in my sophomore year, 10th grade. They said, you know what, we have to move to Houston. So let's go. So we moved over there, and it was a different atmosphere. Over here in San Antonio, when I was here in school, you will have a lot of discrimination.
Really?
Towards, yes, in school. And then I moved to Houston. And I mean, Houston is, we all know is very, the
diverse,
culture, diverse culture, And I get to school, and a lot of the guys, a lot of the students, they will be bilingual. And even African American, kids will try to talk Spanish. They would try to talk to you. They would talk to you, treat you the same. Everybody would treat each other the same. Something that we didn't see here at a school where everybody was Hispanic.
Yeah.
So I was like, how is that possible? Over here is white people, black people, Mexican people, everything, Asian, everything.
Yeah, everything you can think of.
Yes. And everybody talks to each other and everybody's nice to each other. I cannot tell you, I had a bad experience with this girl or with this guy because I didn't speak English. So I had a teacher, and it was my speech teacher, I remember. I told him I want to learn how to speak English. And he's like, really? And I'm like, yes, I want to learn. He goes, okay, are you sure? And I'm like, yes.
So at this point, your English was...
It's still bad.
Okay.
Really bad. Really bad.
You still couldn't hold the conversation with somebody?
No. I will try, but it was mostly like, try to like señas, like, you're like, yes, please. Like, even to go to the restroom, I will be very formal, like, oh, may I go to the restroom, because that's what I was learning in my English class. And he said, okay, I'm going to help you. And I'm like, really? Yes. So he talked to all my teachers through, all my schedule, and to all the students in the classes. And les prohibió, ¿cómo se dice? Les prohibió.
Prohibited?
To talk in Spanish to me. Said nobody's going to talk in Spanish to her. And everybody listen.
¿Aprendes a fuerzas o
yes.
aprendes?
Mm-hmm. So I was like, oh my God. So I would talk to the teachers in Spanish because some of my teachers speak, even, they would, like respond to me in Spanish, the ones that knew Spanish.
Yeah.
And everybody stopped talking to me in Spanish.
So then what?
So I was mad. I was mad. I'm like, oh my God, you know what? Never mind. I didn't mean it. I was just kidding. And I was just joking.
You're like, this is not the way. This is not what I meant.
Mm-hmm. Yes, basically. And he goes, and then he started, you know what? I need for you to join my speech club. And I'm like, okay. So you need extra credit, so you're going to do it. But tell me that he will put me like to read these long speeches and words that I could, like, till this day, I still have trouble pronouncing some words. And I would just look at him and I'm like, oh my God. Like, everybody would have like really short paragraphs. And I would have like this long. I was like, oh my God, no, this is not. No, I will get mad. I will cry. And then I remember one day, so I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to do it. And I said, honestly, I'm not going to do it. I'm like, okay, well, everybody said I'm because nobody's leaving. And then 30 minutes went by. And he locked the door. He said, we're going to go home. Everybody's going to go home when you decide to get up and do it. And everybody wanted to go home.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, it's already 7:30. Like,
everybody's staring at you.
Yeah. But you know what? It's that's when you know that people care about you. because nobody complained. Nobody say, "Oh yeah, let's go, leave her alone." No, no. And they were still very kind to me. They would still help me out, but everything in English. They would still help me out with my homework. They would still help me out, my lessons, everything, but everything in English. So I was like, "Oh my god, it's okay." I got up and I did it, and then that was my sophomore year. By the end of sophomore year, I was already, more fluent in my English. So I was like, "Okay, I did it." I come back to San Antonio. We were in Houston for, I don't know, maybe a year. Through my whole sophomore year, we moved back to San Antonio, and I go back to the same school where I was. But guess what? Now I knew English.
So was she still there?
Yes, she was still there.
Oh.
So, but she
Ahora
didn't
sí.
know, ándale. Yes, I'm
Agárrate,
like, ahora
chiquita.
sí, yes. But she didn't know I was already, I could understand everything she was saying.
Uh-huh.
Everything. I was still having trouble, like I said, till this day, I still have some trouble with my English. And I passed by, I remember it was lunchtime. And once again, she was still a bully. I mean, she never changed through that whole year. She started telling me like, "Oh, there she comes, a wetback." And I don't know why she la traía conmigo. Like she was just, oh my God, like, and I just turned around and I remember I stood in front of her and I told her, like, "I don't understand why you keep being so mean when your grandma doesn't speak English." And like, really? Your mom doesn't speak English. And why do you keep acting like this? Like, why you keep being so mean? Yeah, but remember, one day we're gonna graduate and we're gonna like get out of the school, and that's when life is gonna get real. And it's so funny because how life, puts things in front of you for a reason. Never again. She got very surprised that I was,
That you responded.
that I responded and in English. Years go by, we graduate, life goes on. And a few years back, I don't know, I want to say maybe about 6, 7 years ago. Well, now, I have my business. It happens to be that she arrived to the salon as a customer.
No way.
She did. And back then, I mean, she was, the preppy girl, the one with the Nike expensive shoes, and me, I was all happy with my Walmart shoes, 'cause we didn't know brands.
Yeah.
We didn't know any of that. I remember that stores at Payless. Oh, I was so happy with my Payless shoes. You have no idea.
Yeah.
Because we don't know any of that in Mexico. You don't know brands.
Yeah.
Unless you're wealthy, and you have the ways to have stuff like that. But, most ordinary kids don't know that. And I bumped into her, and it was so sad to see her like that. And I felt bad for her because of the way she looked at me. Because, like I said, through the 4 years of high school, she was still the mean girl, the bully. And then, how many years ago that was that? We graduated in 2003. And I bumped into her, like I said, about 6 years ago. And I guess her life didn't go as planned or things changed for her. And that's when I guess she realized, I guess it was like a lesson for her to see, everything she told me, everything she said I wasn't going to do, I did it. So for me, it was kind of sad, but it was satisfying to say, you know what? It didn't happen. Everything you told me, everything, all those ugly things you told me, it never happened.
Yeah.
But
it didn't
now,
determine my future. Yeah.
Yes. And I looked at her and she's like, "Oh, so this is your salon?" And I'm like, "Yes, this is my salon." She really
Did she know that it was your salon? Or she just happened?
It just happened to be, I guess she just arrived. She just went in for a color. And I remember at that time I had one of my employees and I didn't take care of her. No, I couldn't.
You recognized her?
Yes. And she recognized me too when they say Ana Sol.
Wow.
But I mean, that's what I couldn't understand. I'm like, maybe she didn't realize like has
The
my
name.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or she forgot my name. Maybe she forgot. But seeing her face, the way she looked at me, the whole time she was there, she was just staring at me, looking at me. And and I used to treat it good,
Yeah.
I could have been the mean girl now and say, oh, that's my time,
Yeah.
Let's take revenge right here. But no, I don't have that heart. So I was like, no. Just, her feeling the way she was feeling, I think that was enough for her like, to maybe pay back all the all the hurt that she created at one
Yeah.
point, because it was very traumatizing, like always people calling you names, and she would be very, very mean, from, the classic bullying, from pushing you to calling you names and making you scared. I remember, like, I will be scared of her at times because she was the leader of that little group, and I'm like, oh my god, like, what if they beat me up? What if,
Yeah.
you know?
It was intimidating.
Yeah, very, very, very. Like,
Yeah.
see her with all her, with all her crew, and I was like, oh my god, what? No, I cannot stand in front of her because what's gonna happen? So now I was like, oh my god, God teach her a lesson, and hopefully she'll learn something from it.
Yeah.
Hopefully now we're older, older,
Older.
older. Yes, she learned something from it. Yes,
Yeah.
and I will never ever forget that face. She just looked at me, and I don't know if she was disappointed at herself or something, but something inside her changed. I know. When she left, she didn't even say bye. She didn't say thank you. I mean, she said thank you to the employee, but to me, she couldn't even look at me. She just left and never came back since that day. I don't know. Maybe she thought like she's gonna take revenge on my hair or something, give her a
No,
false or
yeah.
something.
Yeah. No, God has a way of working situations like that where maybe it was a moment that he determined that she needed to be reminded of something or learn something, or there was a reason why she walked
Yes.
into your salon. It wasn't just, I don't think it was just fate.
Yeah.
I think there was a reason.
And I think maybe she thought, because for a moment, because she asked my employee, is that Ana Sol? He said, oh yeah, that's her. Like, she's the owner. And then that's when she's the owner. She's like, this is her salon. That's when she stayed quiet.
Yeah.
Like, oh my god. And then I asked my employee, and then what she said, and she's like, nothing. She was, or cause she told me, said, do you know this lady? And I'm like, why? I said, because she asked if you were on a soul, and I'm like, and then what do you tell her? And I recognized her, like right away.
Yeah.
She's like, she was just very surprised. They said, but she stayed quiet the whole time, and she didn't want to have a conversation.
Wow.
And I'm like, oh, okay, we'll just do her hair and finish her up, and that's
Yeah.
it.
And lesson learned. So how did the salon come to be? When did you decide,
Oh, yeah.
I want to do beauty, I want to beautify people?
Yes, I was lucky that the high school what I went to, I graduated from Burbank High School. They have the cosmetology program. So I took advantage of it. I remember, well, let me tell you my dream. When I was in school, I said, you know what, I'm going to graduate and I'm going to be a nurse. That was my goal,
Okay.
And meanwhile, I said, you know what, I'm going to take this technical career just in case something happens in life, backup career. Or I can have a good job when I'm going to college. So yes, it happened. I mean, I graduated, had a job, I had my license. So I was working at a salon and going to college. And then my friend Jasmani, the one from high school, she got me into work to this company. ¿Puedo decir nombres? I started working with Supercuts.
Okay.
And I was there for about 7 years. I would say about 7 years. But meanwhile, I was, still going to college. But then it happens to be that baby comes along, my first son. And I'm like, okay, I can still do it. Continue to school. How hard can it be to go full-time college and full-time job?
And
with
baby on the way.
So I did it, had the baby, continue. So I went from full-time to part-time and college. So I was like, okay, I can do it. I know I can still do it, Baby number 2 comes along. So I was like, what's going on? So, things happen, and I couldn't continue with school. I was at the time, it was either working or paying daycare, or what do I do?
Yeah.
So you know what? I said, you know what? I'm going to put a school in a little break, a little hold, and we'll see in the future. So what I did, I had the opportunity to work with this company, and I always been the type of person that when you have an opportunity in front of you, you take it. Whatever it is, just take it. You never know. Take chances. Why not? Challenges. So I started learning, and I remember at that time, I'm a workaholic, I have to say. I work a lot, and they would say, "Oh, can somebody stay after? If I will get off at 4, can you stay till 7?" I was like, "Well, yes,
Sure.
yeah, I
No
stay. Yeah.
problem.
Can you work Sunday? Yes. Hey, they need another stylist at another store. Can you go?" I'm like, "Yeah, why not?" So I did that for 2 years, and then my husband at the time got a better job opportunity in Houston. So it's like, "Okay, will you move?" I'm like always, "Yes, let's go. Let's go." So we moved to Houston, same company. And I would say, I have to say thank you to all those people that I had over there in management at the same company, because thanks to them and their trust in me as an employee, I was able to learn a lot from, when it came to styling techniques, hair cutting, color, because I was taking opportunities. At that time, the company said, "You know what, we're gonna launch color now at the salons." And for some reason, nobody wanted to do color at that time because it was just a hair cutting company. So they said, "We're gonna introduce color, we're gonna launch it, and we need, to train people. What do you think of doing it?" I'm like, "Oh yeah," like always, never say no. Said, "Yeah, I take it." And they were very intensive courses, so I would work and then take those classes and work again. So I did that for about 3 months. But it happens to be that because I took those opportunities, they gave me the opportunity of become a trainer. So I wasn't only a hairstylist. I was teaching already. So I became a teacher for the company. So I started doing that. I started growing, taking more opportunities. So I was able to be trained by some of very, very important hairstylists, like in the industry. So I was very lucky because I didn't have to pay $1 for all that training. They gave me all that education, all that training, all the equipment, all that knowledge, and all I had to do, it was say yes and take that opportunity.
And just show up.
Yes, and I was still getting paid for it. So I'm like, "Oh, cool, let's do it. Why not?" So I was the trainer. I was going from store to store, training other people, and then it happened to be that they needed another, area in the company open up. They were gonna start doing like a networking events. So I'm like, "Hey, would you like to do it?" Because I guess either they liked me or I was too friendly or they knew I wasn't gonna say no. So I'm like, "Sure."
Or a combination of everything.
Of everything, yes. So I'm like, "So what do you think? Would you like to do it?" And I'm like, "Sure. Yeah, let's do it." I didn't even know what I was getting myself into. But something that helped me at the time, it was that now I was bilingual. And I'm like, "Oh, cool, And I never thought nothing of it. I was just doing it for the fun of it because I liked it. So I got, to learn that, I would say that branch of the company, like now I'm a hairstylist. Now I can train people. I can travel from store to store. And now I'm doing networking from store to store. And, everything was a paycheck. Everything, every hour, every extra thing was a paycheck. So, like, why not? I have my kids. Let's do it. So I did. And, I started advancing more and more and more. But there was something that I was not thinking of at the time is that my ex-husband's job, they finished. The company closed down.
Oh.
After 4 years, the company, what I say? We're going to close down. And I was like, "Okay, wait a minute.
Yeah.
We moved to Houston because of you guys. And now you're saying that
There's no more work.
there's no more work?" Yeah. So I was like, "Oh my God. So what do we do now?" "Well, let's go back to San Antonio." And I'm like, "Well, why not? San Antonio's home. Let's go." And
And you were okay with leaving what you had already built
yes,
over there.
yes, I was because I'm always open to challenge, like open
Okay.
to changes, challenges, everything. So I'm like, "Yeah, let's go back." I mean, I just made my transfer again. I already know the company over there. But I didn't realize that at that time, the company here went through a lot of changes. So when I came back, it wasn't the same anymore.
Okay.
Yes. And then I left with 1 kid and I came back with 3. So I was like, "Okay, years went by, things are not the same. What do I
My
do now?"
personal situation is not the same.
Yes. So I was like, "What do I do now?" So my baby, the little one, at that time, she was still a newborn when I moved back to. She was born and I moved 2 months later to San Antonio. So she was still baby, you know. And I said, you know what? One day she got sick. And because things changed in the company, I had lost my seniority, you know, from where I was. From 7 years, I was already being treated like a new employee. Why? I don't know. Like I said, things happen in the company and only they know. Like you said, things happen for a reason.
Yeah.
So one day, she gets sick, and I go, you know what? My mom called me. She's like, Mija, she has a lot of fever. You need to you need
You need
to
to come
come.
home.
You need to go home. Oh my God, they threw a fit. Es que how is that possible? And you know that's your personal problems. And I said,
Yeah.
you know what? I can. And no, like my kids come first. You know, I love the company. I loved it. I'm not gonna lie to you. I love the company, but I say my kids need me. I can do this. So I decided to um, try it by myself. So you know what? I'm gonna look for a salon, and so I can work for myself and have my own schedule. If anything happens, I don't have to, you know, be splitting to anybody. So I looked at that time. I looked for a salon and I started renting a station. And I said, you know, I was very excited. You know, I'm gonna do it. I can. I don't know how I'm gonna do it. So I started calling people, my friends, the neighbor, my mom's friends.
Anybody who had hair.
Yes, anybody that had hair, pretty much. Yes. I will, you know, do anything. I will do updos at home, la comadre, you know, whoever, and that's how everything started. So I was very excited, but it happens to be that I landed at a salon where, the owner wasn't very friendly. So I would get really busy because I love my job and I knew how to do a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Haircut, color,
And you
everything.
knew how to treat the clients.
Yes, I had really good customer
Which is the
service.
most important thing in anything.
Yes. So she will get mad. I will be busy and she will be mean. Like she's like, "Oh, I guess they're looking for you." I'm like, okay. So till one day I said, "You know what? No, I can't.
Yeah, this is not the place for me.
No,
either.
this is not the place for me." But what I was doing meanwhile through the year, I started buying stuff. You know, buying one chair, one station, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And that day I remember I said, you know what? I can take it and I can take it anymore. So I excused myself with the customer that I had, you know what, I'm sorry. I won't be able to do your hair today because this is my last day here, but I will keep in touch with you. And oh my God, I thought my customer was gonna be mad. She was so happy. She's like, really? You're moving from here? And I'm like, I don't know yet. I'll let you know. I said, hi, please move from here. I'm like, oh my God. You know, when a customer tells you that,
Yeah.
it's time to move. Definitely
Yeah.
time to move.
Definitely.
So my coworker, and we're still friends till this day. And she still works with me, actually. She was working there at the salon too. Same thing. She was still, she was working for her. And she wasn't renting a station. And I told her, you know what? I'm going to go get some those plastic bins so I can put my stuff. Today's my last day. And she's like, really? And I'm like, yes, I'm leaving. And then when I left, she called me. She's like, can you bring me a box too? She quit.
And followed you.
Yes, she's like, if you leave, I leave. Today is my last day. And then yeah, we left. We met after we got all our stuff, right? And we met after, I don't remember where. I think at a gas station or somewhere. I can't remember where. And we're like, so what are we gonna do now? And I'm like, I don't know. We started crying. And I'm like, I don't know, Alicia, but we cannot be there. Like that's not
It's not healthy.
healthy.
Yeah.
It's not, my sanity is just not there anymore. Like, you know what? We're gonna figure it out. And I started looking around the neighborhood. I said, we cannot go too far because our customers are here, and we have booked agendas. So I'm like, we have to figure something out. Like, just give me a few weeks, give me a few days. Well, it happens to be that I went to a little place. It was just a shell. It didn't have anything inside. Like really, it didn't have floor. It didn't have nothing. But
It was just walls.
yes, but I saw an older guy fixing it, like trying to fix it. And I go, oh God, like, do you rent this place? He goes, well, I was thinking of, I'm like, I rent it. He's like, he looked at me and I'm like, well, it's not done. It didn't even have a restroom. So I'm like, I don't even know why I said that, but I remember, don't worry, we fixed it. I'm like, oh my God, I was just, I don't know, like something told me to say that. And
Yeah.
I said, no, like, don't worry. Like, We fix it. Just tell me that you were renting. And I'm like, really? And I'm like, yes. We fix it. And so when we do that, he said yes. So he said, okay, well, I want the deposit. I'm like, okay. I came out with a deposit. And I remember I asked my mom and my stepdad at the time. I go, can you please let me borrow some money? She's like, for what? Like, I'm gonna open a salon. A salon? Where? And I'm like, just here. Aquí en la esquina, la vueltita. It's like that.
Ahí
She's
por
like,
donde está el perro.
yes. And she's like, okay, mija, pues si you want to. No, hombre, we put so many hours of work. I already had the stations at home because I was buying them little by little through the year.
You had already accumulated your equipment.
But it wasn't, I was not expecting to open a salon like that. I wanted for it to be different.
Yeah.
So we get there to the salon, and you know what? We started getting floor and paint and, different stuff. The texture and the toilet, because it didn't even have a toilet. And I realized that I had a lot of angels around me. We had a lot of friends that were there helping us put sheetrock and floor and paint. And I remember when because the stations came in boxes, there was a lot of, tornillos and here and there and atorale and whatever. It was like, putting a puzzle together. And I have friends and customers helping me. One will go for 2 hours and help me out, put something together. And the other one will go and help me put something else together, and we did it. We did it like that. So in about 2 weeks after we left the salon, we were able to open the new salon.
The new location.
The first Ana Sol Hair Salon. So we opened, and I said, what, we're ready. It was small, but it was really cozy, really nice, really pretty, And I said, what, let's do it. And I remember I said, what, it's ready to open up tomorrow. Let's see how it goes. She's like, okay, yeah.
It was just you and your coworker.
Just me and her, yes, and working at that time. And it's okay, well, and I mean, of course, you always have sometimes of that negative, thinking. She's like, what if nobody comes? And what if nobody shows up? Yes, she's like, ¿y si no viene nadie? And I was like, no, like everybody's gonna show up. Tell me that we open up, and we were busy from 8 in the morning to 10 p.m. non-stop. All week, from Monday to Saturday, we were booked. Every day for more than 10 hours. We didn't even advertise it because we didn't have time. Everything happened so quick, so fast. But we had a few customers that they even made those cartelones, those pink
poster boards.
Poster boards, sí. Y pusieron Ana Sol and Claudia moved to this address. Aww. So they were posting them around, the light poles around the neighborhood.
Yeah.
So people knew, like, if they would go there looking for us, they knew that, like, where to go. They even put, I remember, we were laughing so hard. One, like, almost across the street from where she was, and they said, Ana Sol and Claudia are that way, and they put an arrow. Yes, but those are the people that love you,
Yeah.
Like the customers say, no, you're going to make it, and you see it's going to happen. And that happened in 2012. That happened in, that was 2012. So my salon is still in business. It's already 23. So it's 11 years that we've been in business.
Wow.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Yes, thank you. And that's the way everything started. We started with 2 stations, and then I was there for about 10 months, and then another opportunity of grabbing a bigger salon came along just across the street from it. So I went from 2 stations to 6 stations, a much bigger place. I think it's like maybe 6 times the size of where I was. And it's everything thanks to the customers, to the customers that have been there and that have been very faithful, through all these years, all the referrals. And of course, to the good stylists that have been at the salon. People come and go, but I had good employees that were there and that have been there, to make the salon succeed. Because Ana Sol Hair Salon is not only me, it's, the team as well.
When you were making those decisions, like, for example, when you had to move to Houston, or when you had to move back to San Antonio, or when you decided, I'm not okay in this salon, I need to move out and start my own thing. What did you have a support system behind you, or was most of the strength coming from you? Is it, how were you able to make those decisions
You
and be
know,
okay with them?
you know what? I think it was my inner survival
Instinct?
instinct. When you're a mom, all you think of is your kids. I think it's my kids have always been the reason behind of everything and my strength to say no. I need to get my kids to a better future, a better life. They cannot suffer because of my decisions. So I always have followed my instinct. I'm very very in many ways always go with my heart.
Yeah.
It feels good, it doesn't feel good. So when I made those decisions, I was afraid. I was afraid of making a mistake.
But did you
Sometimes,
have people around you, maybe like feeding in your ear, like, oh, it's a good idea, go for it, or oh, no, 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 that's crazy, don't do that?
yes, I had the crazy ones. Yeah, when they opened the little one, they said, okay, well, let's do it, because it was something affordable. It was something small. But then I guess I'm a dreamer. I always bigger and bigger, and everybody wants that. And so when I say, Mom, you know what? I remember I told my mom this. Mom, I want to move from the salon. She's like, "Ay, Ana Sol, where?" And I'm like, "There's another one like right there, Mom. Like it's just a little bigger." I said a little bigger. I said how big? I said a little bigger, and I think it's gonna be better, and because we have no parking and like we don't fit, and
Yeah.
we need something bigger. She's like, "Hi, Ana Sol, what are you getting yourself into?" And I'm like, "Hi, it's gonna be okay. I know it's gonna be okay." And I did it again, just like I did the first time.
Uh-huh.
I adventure myself again. I say, let's do it. I don't know how I'm gonna come up with the money, but I wanna, because it was a bigger shopping center, so they ask you for more money.
Oh, yeah.
A
Contracts
contract
and
deposit, and they want
yeah.
first month of rent and last month of rent, and then the rent. And I'm like, oh, okay, the rent just triple.
Yeah.
I'm like, plus bills. So I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna make it work. I moved. All the customers were happy because now I had a bigger place and bigger parking, bigger everything. So they were very excited and very supportive. And it worked. My mom would support me a lot when it came to my kids because, like, I'm sure when you open a business, it's a lot of hours to make it work. A lot of extra time, a lot of, nights of non-sleeping because you can't even sleep of all the things that you're thinking and
Yeah.
they come through your
The
head.
wheels never stop turning.
Yes.
You mentioned being a workaholic, and I know that a lot of business owners, myself included, can identify with how hard it can be to juggle personal life, owning a business, relationships, everything that is involved when you are playing this role of being a business owner, being your own boss. How were you able to juggle all of this, and did your work ethic impact, whether it was negatively or positive, the pieces of your life?
You know what? Yes, it did affect. It did affect in a way where people say, "Hey, you're never home." And it got to a point where when you're trying to make it work, usually the first 2 years of a business are like the hardest years.
Yeah.
Well,
It's like a baby, right?
yes.
I mean, the first few years of a baby's life.
Yes.
Yeah.
And well, I had no experience. And I remember something that happened to me like right before I decided to quit the first time, like when I left the lady, that salon. I remember, well, me, like I said, always being, a dreamer of, the things that I wanted to do in life. I remember I told her in a conversation we had, like, you know what, I would like to have my salon just like you one day. And she told me, she put this fear inside me. She said, Ana Sol, if you want to open a business, you need money. You need a lot of money. And I was just like, well, yes, if not, how are you going to open your business? I mean, it's not going to succeed if you don't have money. And I didn't say it to her, because I didn't have that trust with her, but I was like, oh my God, I don't have any money. So how do I open my business?
Yeah.
But you know what? I said, you know what? I'm going to buy a chair, and little by little, I know one day the opportunity will come. And like that's the way I did it. I will have some extra money, buy a chair, another thing, another chair, and things like that. So when the opportunity came along, and I said, well, I didn't have the money for the deposit, because we were struggling, and I still did it. And I think that teach me that it's you the one that makes it happen. Nobody else makes it happen. It's you. So I learned, and I said, you know what? All this effort and all this sacrifice, because my kids, especially, my older ones, they did. I sacrificed a lot of their time, because I remember my mom would pick him up from school, and then she will bring him to me to the salon. And I mean, I would say maybe around 4:30, the usual time
Yeah.
of after school. And sometimes my kids will stay with me till 9:10 p.m. at the salon. So my kids were raised at the salon. They didn't get to go to the park at the beginning, like they didn't get to, oh, let's go play outside the yard. All they knew it was, let's go to the salon and let's just don't act up, let's just do homework.
Behave.
Yes, they had to behave. And they were very, very well behaved kids. I'm very proud of my kids. They were very well behaved. I would tell them, okay, do your homework, and there is food right there, because I have a break room in the back, and you can come and watch TV. But then now I realize, and I look back, and sometimes I'm like, oh, my poor kids. But instead of complaining, I'm like, oh, we were always there, mom. No, they're like, thank you, mom. My kids are very grateful. And I told them, like, I'm sorry, for all those times, or sometimes it was cold and it was dark. And I would get out of the salon, and the little one, but she was only 2. And that was the times that my mom couldn't help me, with them, that she had things to do or
Yeah.
whatever. And like I said, they were so good that I didn't mind having them there. So there was times that the baby will fall asleep in the stroller, and I was still working, and sometimes even my customers were there pushing the stroller around. But they
Helping you out.
understood,
Yeah.
they understood that, that's the way it had to be if they wanted their hair done. So my customers grew, and my kids grew up with my customers as well.
Yeah.
So those are the things that I did say I sacrificed a lot of their time, a lot of the family time. Then things started, getting better. I hired more people. At that time, I had a really good team, and I will say, you know what? Today I'm leaving earlier, so I got to put my son in football. So now I had time to go to practice, and that's the way every business should be. Like you work till you don't have to work.
Exactly. That's the end goal.
Yeah, so okay, well let's put Christy in a cheerleader, and you're playing football, and let's go Saturdays to the games, So things started getting, little by little, all those sacrifices started paying off. So you know what? I'm gonna take the kids here, a weekend off, and things started getting better. Till things, well, everything went good, but and then you realize that your business needs you too, so you have to be there too. It's not always all fun. And the kids say, you know what, mom, but they were still older, and no, we don't want to stay at the salon now, we don't want to be there, and we get bored, because they were already older. So I was like, oh my god, now like they don't want to follow me anymore. So, but those are the things that I would say, would I ever regret anything that I did or take back? It would just be that that time that, even though they were there with me, I wasn't fully with them because I was
Exactly.
working. Yes.
What are their thoughts about it now that they're grown and you guys talk about it? Oh, do you remember? ¿Te acuerdas cuando? How do
Sometimes
they?
they say, oh my God, mom, we're bored. I'm like,
Oh.
I'm like, oh my God. But they're very grateful. Now they know, and they understand that everything I done, and they tell me, my older son, he goes, like, thank you, mom, for everything. They're always, all the time, they're always like, thank you, mom, for everything, and I love you, mom. Those are the words that I hear like the most from them. And it feels good, because they look at me, and I can tell they're proud of me. they show me that they're proud of me, of everything. And I remember telling them when they were little, I'm working because, I mean, like any mom, you like to go to the movies and you want to do this. And they know that thanks to all that, hard work, now we have our house, we have our car, the things that we have. We have been able to do things that, like travel, go to places, where, other people maybe haven't. And they understand that to get there, you have to work really, really hard. And like my son, he works right now. Like he goes to school and he's working. And I looked at him, and when I let him go out, like, with his friends, and I go, oh my God, I was like that. Like I was, at one point, I was just like him, going to school and working and getting up the next day and go to work the next day. So it's like copycat. Now I see that they're picking up, a lot from me. And I always tell my kids, like, we'll always just make priorities. Always think, what comes first, what comes first, what comes first. And that's one of the things that I think they have learned, or they have picked up the most is that in order to have things or to get somewhere, you have to put a lot of effort. And they know it. And like right now, when I told my younger daughter, I go, I'll be right back, I have to do this for work. She's like, for what? And then she tells me, oh, so you can get more customers, right?
Exactly.
Yes.
Yes, girl.
Yes.
That's exactly the point.
Yes. So, and now they have the idea of the business. They know, like, they don't judge, now that they're teenagers, they don't judge. They don't say, oh, well, you're not here, because they understand, what comes, with mommy not being there. They understand why. And I cannot tell you how much they help me out. Like my older kids, they help me out a lot.
Yeah.
A lot, a lot. Because I hear from my friends like, I know, está huerca no me ayuda, or this and that. But they're there for me. I mean, of course, they have their ways. They're teens, But they're there. Like, I can feel that they have my back.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's really hard to say nowadays, with some teenagers,
You know what? And I think one of the most priceless things that they have been able to receive is the education. Mm-hmm. Being able to see firsthand what it is to be a business owner, mm-hmm. what it is to live an entrepreneurial lifestyle. That's education that they're not going to be able to go get anywhere else. Yes. Because there's no degree on how to be an entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. There's no degree, yeah, you can go and study business and stuff like that, but there really isn't a course or anything like that you can go and take on how to be your own boss.
Yes.
And they're getting it firsthand from you, where to the point where, the day tomorrow or whenever they're ready to go out into the world, they have not only the option that we're all offered of being here in the US, of going to college, getting your degree, mm-hmm. going to work, but now they have this other option of, hey, you can start your own business too. It's going to be really hard. There's going to be a lot of work mm-hmm. to do, but you could start your own business, and that's a way of living too.
Yes, and now I see it right now that you're talking about college. My older son, he graduated this year in May, and he was taking a medical career class and certification, his last year of school, his senior year. And I guess I was pushing him into the medical field. And I'm like, okay, if you like it, we'll go. It's a good field, everything. Everything, that you want your kid to do, And he's like, okay, Mom, he was doing it and everything. And then he is accepted to college. And then he tells me 2 weeks before that he's not going to college. Oh my God.
No, como balde de agua fría.
Yes. I was like, excuse me? No, you just imagine. Y como buena mexicana.
Uh-huh.
No, hombre. Sobre gritos y sombrerazos. And I'm like, excuse me? No, mijito. I'm like, okay, so you don't pay bills here, and you can just imagine.
Yeah.
And then he goes, well, I want to study this. That's when it changed, He's like, I want to take this technical career that I like, Mom. And I was like, okay, well, now let's talk about it, So I started listening to him, not just hearing, but actually listening to him. Mm-hmm. And he goes, no, Mom, I want to do this career. He's actually going to school for HVAC. And so I'm going to get certified. And then he said this, I want to have a license like you because we get certified by the state. And I want to have my own business. So that's when I snapped out, I snapped out of it and I said, this is what I did. I was like, wow. And I was listening to him and I was just listening to myself. Like, I'm going to finish my career and I'm going to start working. I'm going to have my life. Everything I said, he repeated.
Yeah.
He didn't know about this. And he's like, I'm going to have my license and maybe get some experience and then open my own company. I want to be my own boss. So I don't want to be stuck in a room. And he's very caring. And I go, you'll be a really, really good, handsome nurse, mijo. Yeah, so he's like, Mom, I don't want to be stuck there with a schedule where I'm going to be working so many hours. And then I just don't want that. And so I want to be independent. And I'm like, okay. That's when I say, you know what? You have my support 100%. I did it. And if I made it happen, you can make it happen too. So, but it was just, it shone on me, I never expect that. I was definitely not expecting that. And it happened. And now I see him and, he graduates, I think, in March, if I'm not mistaken. And we're looking, to see that happen. I really, really want to see him graduating and accomplishing what he wants to do, not what I'm telling him to do. And I think about it and I keep telling myself, oh my God, this is what I created. This is what I know. Even when I hear my daughters, they're business girls too. Like, oh, Mom, can you get us, some chocolates because we're going to be selling them at school so we can make some money. And I'm like, oh my God, but that's what they learn. They learn that, work so you can get some money and work for the things that you want. And I do see my kids, I actually see all of them, being business owners because that's what they learn.
Yeah.
That's what they learn. And it makes me very proud because it means that, being a Mali with a lot of effort, it's, they're turning into good kids. They're turning all that sacrifice, like I said, into good things. So it makes me very, very happy to see them like that or with that thinking.
Yeah. Reflecting from the moment that you came to the U.S., that moment that first day of school that was a little hard, those years of dealing with people calling you names, doubting, making you or wanting to make you doubt yourself of whether you were going to be able to be successful one day or not. Reflecting now, back in those days, how do you when you think of yourself, your life, your business, your kids and stuff, what are the kind of thoughts that come to your mind about everything that you've been through, everything you've overcome and how far you've come?
When I look back, the first thing is thank you. I say thank you, God. Thank you to my parents. Thank you to all those people that have been there, like it's behind my back, they're supporting me. Because if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be sitting down right now talking to you. I always would say that God put us in a situation where we did. I remember my abuelita told me something. Because when we moved to San Antonio, they stayed back in Mexico, right? And they couldn't come because they didn't have a visa. And I used to cry a lot. And I told my mom, I will get mad at my mom, of course, as a teenager. And I go, I'm going to go back, Mom. And I remember I go, sí, mija, te vas todo el 35 aquí, derechito. And I'm like, I'm going to leave, Mom. and I will hear my grandma cry. And she told me one day, mija, I said, please make all this sacrifice, because they suffer a lot too when we left. All the sacrifice worth it. All these tears, all this sacrifice, because I went 2 years without seeing them. Because after we moved, the supposedly few months that we were going to stay here turned into 2 years. So it was just, phone calls, because at that time there was no FaceTime, there was no Skype, there was nothing like that. And it was really hard to hear them cry. It was hard. And I told them, I made a promise. I made a promise to her. And I said that everything I did and everything I would do, it will be to make it worth it.
Mm-hmm.
To make it worth it. All those nights that they cried, all those tears that everybody, cried, make it worth it. And I think I have done it. I learned a lot through school, going through those situations make you very strong, make you more, pues sí, like fuerte, like having that, say, you know what, no, you're not gonna put me down, and I'm not that. And like that other person when I started my business, that, oh, you need money. And I think what you need is determination and faith. That's what you need. Thinking that, you know what, whatever you do, you can always make it happen. I had learned that nobody can decide what they tell you. It doesn't matter how bad it is, they cannot decide what's next in your life, what's the next movement. That doesn't determine your future. That's not gonna, how can I say it? It's not gonna build what they said. It shouldn't affect what you're thinking. And I have made myself very, very strong. I have gone through a lot of really hard situations in life, and in my personal life, that have really, really
Tested you
yes, they put me to the stage. They shook me up and say, you know what, this is this is like, wake up, like, you're like, at one point I had this situation where I was going through a lot of stress, and I got sick. Stress, work, personal life, everything just, it caught up to me. And that's when I realized too that, you know what, no, nobody negativity is worth your life. I got to a situation where I had a TIA, that's a mini stroke, and I almost had a heart attack. And because of all the pressure, everything that I was, on my shoulders. And I said, you know what? When I was in the hospital, the doctor told me, they said, you know where you at? And I thought it was a test, because they were testing me for all this stuff. They said, you know where you at right now? And I'm like, yeah, at a hospital. Then, you know what floor is this? And I'm like, well, I think it was the fourth floor, I don't remember. And I'm like, okay. I said, come here. And she made me walk to the door. And she's like, look around. And I was like, okay. He said, do you realize where you at? And I'm like, at a hospital. And she's like, yes, you're at a hospital, but you're in the stroke unit. And I'm like, okay. And said, you want to know the good and the bad? And I'm like, yeah. He said, well, the good is that you're doing good. You don't have any brain damage. You don't have a blood clot in your brain. So you don't have no brain damage. So it's good. But the bad part is that you're only 34 years old, and you don't have high blood pressure, and you don't have heart problems, and you almost died.
Wow.
So that would say that from there on, it changed a lot. It changed a lot because it changed my thinking. Because I was just working, stressing, always. It became a routine. Drop off the kids to school, go to work, stressed out, do whatever you had to do at work, and then come back, and same thing over and over and over, repetition. Till I finally, I guess my body gave up, or God said, you know what? Let me just give her a little scare so she can know that there is more in life than just working and stressing. So that happens to me. And when I was there, I didn't tell anybody that I was in the hospital. They only made me tell one person, and that was my sister, my poor sister. I called her and said, you need to call somebody. You need to call a family member and let them know that you're here. Because I didn't know that when you have a stroke, you can always have more strokes after the first one. And say, we just need somebody to let them know. And I remember I called my sister. It was late at night. And that is just because basically they forced me. And I called her and like, hey, I'm in the hospital. She's like, why? What happened? Pobrecita, she was in the middle of a hurricane in Houston, over there in Beaumont.
Oh.
She's like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm okay. And I was just like, I was all hooked up to,
Yeah.
machines. And I didn't tell her I was about to have a heart attack and I almost died. And yeah, I'm good. Everything.
They just want me to let you know.
Yeah, I just wanted to let you know. And I feel a little sick. I was just a little dizzy, and that's it. And I hang up the phone and I started crying. And I said, you know what? No, I need to change my life. I need to change the way I'm doing things. Because at the end, my kids need me. If I die, what's going to happen to my kids?
Yeah.
I mean, the business, como quiera, but my kids. That's when I say, you know what? No, there's more to life than that. And I started making changes. That's when I started realizing, you know what, all that quality time, it's what is really precious. It's all that, it's good to work, put all your effort, but at the same time, it's to take care of yourself. Because if we don't, as business owners, te acabas. I mean, really, like the stress, you will not realize, or I didn't realize how bad the stress can get you. Because they told me, say, you're perfectly healthy. You don't have nothing. There's nothing wrong with you. No tienes nada. And you almost die. And I was like, oh my God. And I remember the cardiologist, I ended up with a heart monitor. I had to get surgery. So they put kind of like a bypass,
Yeah.
something like that. And they told me, say, el heart, it turns off. And that's it. That's it. And oh my God, like they had to talk to me like that. They had to talk to me like that. I said, you know what? No. I had, overcome so many things and I have worked so hard, like to finish like that. How? No, that's not gonna happen. Not to me. That's not gonna happen. And I started making more, changes where I say, you know what? Now all the trip that I was putting up, like, oh, we just go next summer. We just go next year, and maybe in the future. I took advantage of my life, my timing now, and it's now I started doing the same thing I was doing before, taking opportunities. You have the opportunity to travel with your family, travel. You have the opportunity, to eat a picnic with your family, go, do it. Go to the beach, go to the park, anything that you can do. I mean, it's good for us to put all that effort into our businesses, into our work, into our goals. But at the same time, we have to put everything in a balance and do everything else with them to make it worth it. And I feel happier now. I feel happier that I'm doing that, seeing the kids, and maybe because now they're older, then they understand. And now they were able to communicate with me when I got sick. They said, Mom, we were scared. We thought you were not going to come back from the hospital. And I'm like, oh my God, it was very scary. It was very scary, but it was a wake up call for me.
Yeah.
It was a wake up call for me. And till this day, I'm still making changes. You need to get out of your life, whatever's negative, whatever doesn't supposed to be there, let it go. Let it go, I learned that there are situations and phases in life where everything has a beginning and an end. And when you learn how to, accept that, things change instead of forcing situations. Once you stop forcing situations, everything changes and everything settles and falls into place by itself. And that's what I've been doing this past years since COVID. COVID came along. Too, that's another thing too that it was kind of wake up call for everybody.
Yeah.
For everybody, and so everything one thing after another. Get out of the hospital and then boom, COVID, and is my business gonna survive? Thank God it did survive. Even though we were closed and everything, we survived COVID. Thanks to the customers, my faithful customers that they were there. And we opened up again and everything started running smoothly. Everything. So I guess having that, all those little, shakes, shaking in life, it helped me a lot to realize, like you said, how much I have overcome through all these years, that now is appreciate what you have, be grateful, and just keep working for everything I want, and to maintain or get better at what I'm at right now.
Anna, congratulations on
Thank
11
you.
years. Thank you so much for accepting the invitation to be a part of this episode and Wow, what a story. It's incredible. I'm just really excited to be able to share this story with our listeners and with our viewers. Thank you so much for sharing. How do we follow you on social media?
Yes, social media, Instagram, I'm under Ana Sol Hair Salon or Ana Sol Villarreal. And Facebook, same thing, Ana Sol Hair Salon.
Once again, thank you very much. Thank
Thank
you for listening, for watching. Please remember to subscribe. Remember to share this episode and be on the lookout for the next ones. The Savage Podcast brought to you by Savage Coffee, now located inside the Boeing Center at Techport. Listo.
Ay, thank you, no, hombre. Sí, plática hay mucha.
Sí, pero qué chido, ¿sabes?